morning. Welcome. We are so excited to have all of you guys here. This is a very exciting event, and we're glad that you've chosen to come to this sala sobre empatia. Just to introduce and to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what we're going to do for the next couple of hours. We have two people here from Ashoka, Vicky Colbert and Marvin Williams, who will be arriving shortly. We're excited to hear a little bit more about their methodologies and the things that they do to teach empathy in the education system. Is there anyone here who only speaks espanhol? Ótimo. Então, todo mundo está entendendo. Beleza. Just to give a little bit of an introduction to Vicky. Vicky Colbert is the founder and director of Fundación Escuela Nueva and co-author of the Escuela Nueva educational model. Worldwide, it's known for its proven effectiveness in improving the quality of education. She has developed, expanded, and sustained this innovation from different organizational spheres. As the first Escuela Nueva national coordinator, Vice Minister of Education of Colombia, UNICEF's Regional Education Advisor for the LAC region, and now from Fundación Escuela Nueva, a nonprofit she founded in 1987 to ensure the quality and sustainability of the Escuela Nueva model in Colombia and abroad, and to further adapt its proven cutting-edge pedagogy, to new contexts and populations. Under Colbert's leadership, Fundación Escuela Nueva has adapted the Escuela Nueva model to urban settings and for migrant displaced populations in emergency situations. Vicky has also been recognized as an outstanding social entrepreneur by the Schwab Foundation and by Ashoka. She has been awarded the World Technology Award in Social Entrepreneurship in 2005, the Skoll Award for Social Entrepreneurship in 2006, and the first ever Clinton Global Leadership Award in 2008. And in 2009, Vicky was awarded with the Qatar Foundation's WISE Award for her efforts in education for pluralism, and most recently, the 2011 Kravis Prize in Leadership. She completed her undergraduate sociology degree in Javeriana University in Colombia, and earned 2 MAs in Sociology of Education and Comparative International Education from Stanford University. Also, Marvin, who's not quite with us, but he is on his way shortly, an introduction for him. He was born in Los Angeles, California. He attended San Diego State University, where he received a bachelor's degree in public administration. Marvin began his career in education as a middle school social studies teacher with the Los Angeles Unified School District. He later moved on to working with community-based organizations. As assistant director of the Volunteers of America Upward Bound, he coordinated a federally funded college access program. Later, Marvin served as director for the Boys and Girls Club of the South Bay and Long Beach, where he managed the implementation of comprehensive after-school programs for youth ages 6 to 18. After earning a master's degree in education administration from National University, Marvin worked as a consultant with the Los Angeles County Office of Education, responsible for planning, coordinating, and monitoring of school district compliance with educational reform equity legislation. He provided guidance in the interpretation of the Williams and Valenzuela legislative mandates, as well as technical assistance to district and site administrators representing 40 school districts. And currently, as the director of school partnerships with Peace First, Marvin oversees the implementation of social emotional learning curriculum at 3 public schools. Additionally, he also coaches principals and school leaders in establishing strategic plans to improve school culture. So we're very excited to have both Vicky and been here with us today. Just one thing that I would like to say, by way of introduction, my name is Julie. I work for Ashoka in Washington, D.C. And Empathy is something that is very important, obviously, to all of us. That's why we are here. We're all trying to make a difference in the world, and we're all trying to create a world in which everyone can be a change maker. And the very first thing that anyone needs, the very first skill that anyone needs in order to be a change maker, to make changes in this world, is empathy. And so we're excited to learn more from Vicky and Marvin today about how we can teach this to children, how we can use it in our educational systems. And with that, I will go ahead and turn the time over to Vicky.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm from Colombia, so I can speak Spanish. Maybe it would have been easier, but I'll speak in English for the translation issues. I have been in Escuela Nueva since we started it more than 30 years ago. It's a life project. And many of you are probably familiarized with Escola Activa in Brazil. I started working here in Brazil. We started Escola Activa 15 years ago in Nordeste de Brasil. It was a program for the rural escolas multiseriadas, the multi-grade schools. So when Ashoka invited me to participate and share with you our experiences in relation to empathy, compassion, yes? The what? Closer? Oh, yeah. Sorry for that. But I think you were hearing me well. There's no problem. The room is small. So I started identifying how can I share with you the different elements that we have in Escuela Nueva that promote empathy and learning to live together. So I'm going to share with you this experience of Escuela Nueva that has inspired many educational reforms worldwide. And if at the end we have time, I found a beautiful treasure, which was a video of Escola Activa when we started here in Brazil. So it's in Portuguese. So maybe we can, at the end, see it if we have the time. So I my presentation with the concept of quality education for peaceful coexistence. And I want to emphasize that you cannot achieve quality of education only with cognitive outcomes, language and math, for example. For us, quality education includes learning to live together. In Spanish, it's easier to say convivencia. I don't know in Portuguese how you say it. You translate convivencia. In English, it's like peaceful coexistence. It's more complicated. But you know the word convivencia. So let me start with this reflection. May I have a little bit of help here? I just want to, maybe this one? Here. I want to start with this quote, inspirational quote. And it's a reflection on the work we have been trying to do in the last 30 years. For more than 100 years, the lack of school management methods has been the cause of countless complaints. But it has been only in the last 30 years that efforts have been made to find a solution to this problem. And what has resulted? Schools continue exactly the same as before. Comenius in the year 1600. So this is very important because it's a reflection on the importance of pedagogics, of the importance of everything has to, Escuela Nueva is a pedagogical reform. I say it's Paulo Freire in the classroom. If we think about the health sector, if we bring a doctor from 100 years ago into a hospital today, the doctor would be lost. If we think of this education sector, if we bring a teacher from 100 years ago into a classroom today, the teacher would not feel so lost. So the message here, everything has changed except the way of learning, except the classroom. So if we want to talk about empathy, we have to get into the structure of the learning process. You cannot teach empathy. You learn to live it together. So this is important. You cannot teach it as a concept. You have to learn to live it together. So this was the first reflection. I have to touch the situation of Latin America in quality education, because I think our education systems, something's happening, but there are no results. And Latin America had improvement in access. Oops, sorry. No, I want to go back. There we go. We have improved in Latin American access, but still failure is a characteristic of our region. We have dropouts, repetitions, problems of access and enrollment persist in some countries. 50% of students do not understand what they read in 4th grade. So how can you understand the other person if you don't even know how to read? These are key issues. A lot of money has been spent in repetition. So these are the problems when we started working. I started working with the poorest of the poor schools in Colombia and then in Latin America. So, low academic achievements, incomplete schooling, low self-esteem, this is key. When your self-esteem is low, you become a little bit more aggressive. Calendars that expel children from the schools, traditional teacher-centered methods like the one I'm using right now, just giving instruction, emphasis not on comprehension, parent community, overloaded, irrelevant curriculums, insufficient time for learning. Just comparing Latin America with Europe or the United States, it's exactly half the time of calendar. Many schools call multiseriadas, or multigrade teachers that are invisible to the education system, and they will not support the achievement of the Millennium Goals unless they are visible. Limited amount of time in the first grades, lack of materials. So of that is diversity in the classroom. How do you handle diversity and heterogeneity? Especially when conventional methods are used, like what I'm doing right now, giving information. So has been saying this for many years, and we are saying it, of course. We need a paradigm shift. Improving the quality of education implies more than an emphasis on expanding education systems. More of the same is not enough. We require a cultural change, going from transmission of knowledge to construction of knowledge. And this has profound implications for democracy and for learning empathy. So this is why I want to touch the empathy dimension from a more structural perspective of quality education. So a new type of school, renovated teaching methods, and a change in the role of the teacher. This is key. We have to recuperate the real role of the teacher. We'll talk about it later. So we had to rethink everything in the education system because nothing worked. A lot of teacher training, no results in the classroom. Faculties of education, teachers' colleges don't know what's really happening in the low-income schools. So everything we think, the whole process. So this is what Escuela Nueva did. And I want to say that this is not new. We know the theory of education for more than 100 years, the philosophy of education. We know Dewey, we know Montessori, we know Vygotsky, we know all these. And this is what we study in the faculties of education and we repeat by memory. But unfortunately, this has not implied changes inside the way of the classroom, the way we learn. So where did we start? We started with the rural isolated schools first, multigrade and unitary schools they were called. They were promoted by UNESCO in the 60s. But these schools, which are invisible, to educational planners are a center for innovation because you're forced to change the whole thing. When you have children, first grade, second, third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, you cannot use a conventional model of education. So these schools, the multiseriadas, the invisible ones, force you to innovate in the learning process. So what is multi-grade school? This is where we started. Escuela Nueva has also been applied to urban, to different populations, but this is where we started. With 1 or 2 teachers that have to work simultaneously with all primary grades. And these schools exist in developed countries also. In Canada, in Australia, in France, where there's low density of population. Like here in Brazil, Nordeste Brasil, you have many escolas multiseriadas, where we introduced the Escola Activa years back. So it forces to organize the children in small groups, just like you're sitting right now. We had to develop flexibility. How can children, if they have to participate, in the case of Colombia, picking the coffee with their parents, come back, they would have to repeat again. So we said the school has to be made flexible because not everybody learns the same thing at the same time. And this is the big problem we have in education. We had to develop learning materials. We had to really train the teachers in a very specific way. So this is where we started. However, there are studies from Bruce Miller. It's an old study about multi-grade schools in the United States. He says that these schools help develop empathy. Why? Because children of different ages are working in the same classroom. So, because you have to introduce flexibility to meet the students' individual and group interest and needs. And also, it becomes a support. So the multi-grade rural classroom is less formal than the single-grade urban classroom of a teacher per grade. So the small classes, they develop more friendly relationships based on understanding and respect and develop naturally between the student and because it's a formal setting. Schools are an entry point for developing empathy in the system. I just want to highlight how important these schools are in a society.
Bom, Vicky, muito obrigada. O Marvin chegou agora, então a gente já vai deixar o resto do tempo para ele. Por favor.
Bom dia. I did learn that along the way. Actually learned a lot more about the city than I anticipated, but I'm glad to be here. My name is Marvin Williams, and I'm the Director of School Partnerships. So again, my name is Marvin Williams, and I'm the Director of School Partnerships for Peace First in Los Angeles. Peace First started as a response to gang violence in the 1990s in the United States. And what we aim to do is to build safe school climates, teach young people conflict resolution skills, and teach them to be leaders. And we do this with a experiential approach. We play games and cooperative activities to teach them skills that will help them be what we call peacemakers. What I like to start us off with is an activity. And just know that for the 45 minutes that I have remaining here, we will be engaged in activities because that's how we teach these skills to young people. So the first game that we're going to play is called What's in a Name? What I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is to get into pairs with someone you don't know. Find one person, and I want you to interview them about their name. What is the history of their name? Is there any particular story around your name? Do you like your name? You're going to spend about 3 or 4 minutes interviewing that person about their name. Then they're going to turn around and interview you, and then we're going to share out. Now, let me give you an example. My name is Marvin. Growing up, I really didn't like my name that much. Only until I heard Marvin Gaye sing. I have an identical twin named Melvin. And I got my name from my auntie Marva, which is kind of why I didn't like my name, because it came from my female auntie. And what's interesting about my name is, even though I'm an identical twin, people who don't know that I'm a twin, they will call me Melvin, which is kind of crazy to me. So what I'd like for you to do right now is take about, let's first get into a pair. We'll give you a couple of minutes to get into a pair. And then I want you to interview that person on the name. And here are some of the prompts. You can ask what their full name is. How do you feel about your name? What's the history behind your name? Do you like to be called by a nickname? So let's take this time right now, find a partner, and we're going to give you about 4 minutes to interview that person about their name. Okay, at this time, you should be switching and make sure your partner has the opportunity to interview you. We'll give you about 3 more minutes. If you can hear my voice, please clap once. If you hear my voice, clap twice. Thank you. I realize we have translation going on, so it wasn't as synchronized as I would like. But this is one of the rituals we use when working with students in building pieces to bring the class together. So what I'd like to do now is go around each table, and if you can volunteer, I want you to tell me at least one thing you learned about the partner you interviewed. So, which table would like to go first? Oh, she crossed her arms, so right here. Who would like to go first? What you learned, share one thing you learned about your partner's name. Okay. And then, and your name?
Meu nome é Júlia, eu entrevistei a Márcia, ela é educadora, ela é professora, ela gosta do nome dela, nunca pensou em mudar e não é muito fã de apelidos.
Bem, eu entrevistei a Júlia, ela é de Belo Horizonte, está fazendo gestão ambiental, gosta do nome e a família a trata com um apelido carinhoso, de Pituquinha.
Eu entrevistei a Amanda. Amanda gosta do nome dela, não quer mudar o nome. E ela mora aqui no Rio de Janeiro e trabalha com educação, arte e educação.
O nome dela é Ana Cristina e ela usa mais Ana, mais curtinho, mais fácil de chamar. A mãe dela colocou o nome por causa da Santa Ana e gosta do nome, usa Ana Mascarenhas, que vem do marido dela. E também não pensa em mudar de nome, gosta bastante do nome.
Meu nome é Camila, eu entrevistei a Virgínia. Na verdade, o nome dela era para ser Viviane Viana, só que como o pai dela achou que ia ficar muito V, colocou o nome dela como Virgínia.
Olá, eu entrevistei a Camila. O nome dela é Camila, porque tem uma música do Biquíni Cavadão, Camila, que tocava muito na época que ela nasceu. E, apesar dela gostar do nome dela, outros pais também gostavam muito da música e ela tinha 5 colegas com o mesmo nome na sala. Mas ela gosta do nome dela, não gostaria de ter outro, não.
Eu entrevistei o Dinei. Ele agora gosta do nome dele, porque ele não tem mais... já habituou a soletrar toda vez que ele fala o nome dele. O nome foi escolhido pela mãe dele, lendo uma lista de vestibular. Era o nome do primeiro que tinha sido aprovado para medicina. E agora ele já acostumou e gosta do nome dele.